Next question we have is from Nate. What is the most impactful book you've ever read?
Ooh.
The Bible.
Just one? Just one. Impactful.
All right,
like
you
the
go
most.
The Bible's not the most impactful book I read.
All right.
It does shed a lot
Blasphemy.
of... Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. It's not a great book. Anyone who's read the Old Testament should be horrified. It is... Yeah, go ahead. Read the Old Testament. It's the most violent, graphic, awful thing ever. Skip Deuteronomy and Leviticus. Those are just law chapters. Those don't matter. I really examined
Have you read
the
it
Bible. Oh, yeah.
front to back?
Yeah.
I've never read it
front to back.
Yeah.
I've read it twice. Old Testament is still the worst. It's the worst. Genesis, Exodus is like cliff notes of like 6,000 years. And then the rest of like laws is in the middle. It's boring. And then everything else is like history just repeats itself, but it's written by different historians. So each account's got a slightly different variation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Way too much
I
information.
don't have to read it now. I appreciate you. I just got the
There you
cliff notes.
Yeah. Go check out what is it? Temple with the Jews. All right. I don't know if they'll recite it in Yiddish or whatever language it is they speak, but I mean the Old Testament's fascinating, but it's a terrible book.
One book is tough because I feel like I've read so many. I don't know, Spence, do you?
I think for me, it's really tough to pick one because also depending on the stage of life you're in, sometimes books will just hit differently, and at that moment, it could be the perfect book. Yeah. And I've got examples of that. Like,
I'm gonna tweak it. What's the book that you have reread or referenced the most? Because that's an indicator of favorite book or biggest impact. As I was trying to answer the question, that's what I asked myself because that's the only frame I could think of. And I can tell you that As a Man Thinketh, I just have that book on my little desk where I read or where I journal, and it just sits there and it never leaves. And I'll just open it up and read a chapter or two. It's like 55 pages. It's super smart or super short. It's like written in 1900. You can get a free copy online. Literally just type As a Man Thinketh PDF. Yep. It's out of print because it's so fucking old. There's no like copyright on it anymore.
Woo, free stuff.
That's one of them.
And that one's fantastic. I will say that's one you can open up, highlight a few pages, read a chapter every single day and still consume the content, and it's still going to apply.
Yeah. I love The Four Agreements.
Yep.
I've reread that one a few times. Just really simple, timeless principles.
Yep.
The first agreement, be impeccable with your word. Simple.
Yep.
The second agreement is don't take things personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. And then the fourth agreement is always do your best. Yep. And he goes in and adds a lot of context to it. So it's just such good stuff. One book that has had a really big impact on my life is The Surrender Experiment.
I was going to mention that one.
Yeah.
Michael Singer.
We talked about this on previous episodes, but the general premise is surrendering or letting go of our biases and preferences. Oftentimes life or God or grace or the universe, whatever your belief system is, has a much bigger plan for you than you could ever imagine yourself. And it's your biases that are stopping that bigger plan from unfolding. So we got to kind of get out of our own way. Yeah. Beautiful examples.
I remember reading that when we kind of started Live Bearded, and we were moving into Maui, and life was just changing so quickly, and there's a lot of uncertainty into the future. But that book really, the timing of that book, that's what I was going to say, like, when you read a book in the time, it just hits differently. And that one for me hit deep because the amount of transition and surrendering into this next chapter, into launching Live Bearded and kind of the unknown that was coming ahead.
I love The Alchemist.
I've read the story.
I've read The Alchemist a few times, and I just love that idea of your own personal legend and leaning into, and that's a good example of like shit happens and he almost gave up and he kept going. It's like that very traditional like hero's journey.
Yeah, I mean, recent read that we went through, Unreasonable Hospitality. That one is arguably one of the better books I've read in a while. For anyone who's listening that's in any sort of service, honestly, any business, any person should just read this book. It's how to create wow experiences, go above and beyond to create just such an unbelievable experience with the brand. He's a restaurant. Basically, I don't want to spoil it, but he turns a restaurant around, makes it the #1 restaurant in the world, and it's a fantastic read. So I'd highly recommend that. One of the stories that the Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's story. Shoe Dog. I listened to that on Audible. It's like 13 hours. I literally listened to it from the drive from Colorado to Arizona straight with no break, and I stopped and finished the book when I got home, even after the long drive, because I had to finish the story. It was a fascinating story. That was really, really good. I mean, there's, again, I think books, depending on the time of your life and kind of what you need to hear.
Yeah, two very like books. I don't know how to say it otherwise. Like just fucking get your shit together books. Relentless by Tim Grover.
Oh, yeah.
I've reread that a couple
That's great.
times. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade's trainer.
Yep.
And he's kind of what allowed, I think, Jordan to develop some of the strength to get to the next level. But amazing author, but Relentless is really good. And then I'm just a big fan of David Goggins and Can't Hurt Me.
His first one's
book.
so fucking good. I couldn't put that down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goggins is good.
He's good. I have nothing against Goggins. He's such a meme though.
Yeah. Jesse Itzler, Living with the Seal.
Yeah.
That it has Goggins living with him. Burpee test, motherfucker. That's fucking great. Jesse Itzler's actually a stud. He has a lot of really cool content. He's doing some cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a really good kind of story based, still inspiring. I still love extreme ownership. I think the accountability and just like taking ownership. I know you say it all the time. Your life is your fault. It's part of the ETN, and it's so true. And I think so many people refuse to take ownership of shit and play the victim mentality. And so I think that's a good read for anyone who's looking to.
Yeah, honestly, some of my favorite books to read are like really old books. Like again, As a Man Thinketh, it's written in 1901. There's a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, is written around that same time. The Power of Awareness. Like I like to go back to like all the information, all the personal development, all the mindset stuff is all just rephrased in modern experiences. But if you go back to like some of the originals, I like to go to the source, if you will. So I love some of those older books as well, but.
So the answer to the question is there's no fucking way to answer it. There's a bunch of different books you can read depending on where you're at, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And
every book has different chapters, and every human has different chapters. And different chapters of your life, other books are going to speak to you differently.
Depending on what you're looking to, what skill you're trying to accomplish or acquire.
Yeah, some of the books that I reference all the time, if you really want to like screw with your brain a little bit and think outside the box, there's a book called 7 Basic Plots by Christopher Brooks. He talks about every story ever told falls into one of these 7 basic plots. So every movie, every book you read, well, not like the self-help books and like those kind of things, because those are autobiographical. The fiction stuff, all the narrative things, they all fall into one of these 7 basic plots, and he just kind of outlines everything. It's a very like pretentious read kind of deal because it's someone just like self-examining. But then there's another guy who, if you ever read anything by his name's Manly P. Hall, and just type Manly P. Hall. He does a lot of occultist kind of things, and he talks about that, but he also talks about spirituality and like soul stuff, emotional things, but it's a very like as a man thinketh kind of deal, and like that mindset. Like one thing that he said that just like threw me off is like praying is nothing more than just like an incantation of you wishing something on someone else, which is a lot like witchcraft. And then I was like, oh, hold on a minute. And I had to take a second to think. I was just like, so wait, every time we pray, we're kind of like witches. So there's no reason for like Christian schools to ban Harry Potter, right? Because they're all practicing the same thing.
As you're talking, another book that popped into my mind is The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. I read that one several times when I was first getting started. And he's like a chess prodigy. And he basically became a world champion chess master, then got bored of chess, basically didn't have anything else to do, became a world champion like kickboxer multiple times, stepped away from that, and then he basically like became an investment advisor like to like top CEOs. And so he has this strategy of deconstructing things and basically teaching yourself how to learn incredibly complex things in a very like structured way. So it's really cool. He definitely, you know, there's some of those super smart type out there that I don't consider myself one, but they say like the meta skill is learning. Like if you can learn how to learn better, then in the world of information, you can consume and have a strategic advantage. And so he talks a lot about how to improve your ability to learn, which is a super interesting way to think about it.
I like the question. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. A lot of books. We'll put them. Well, I'll put them in the video description. So check out all the links. So many books.
Yeah.